it would have been the right track if it went on till 5 days, right? So why not in 3 days? When we lose in England, no one asks if the track was right. It's always we that play badly. So I don't know. Hashim said the batsmen didn't apply themselves, and I agree with him. Those who applied got runs as well. It wasn't like teams are getting out for 50, you know. So there's no need to the wicket.
Hello and welcome to the Sportscast. You just heard Virat Kohli, the Indian captain, defend the pitch and make a case for why it was a competitive match in the end. India won the match quite comprehensively in the end, but the pitch still remains the talking point. I have Ayaz Memon with me to discuss the match and all the other sporting events from the week. So Ayaz, do you agree the pitch has stolen the limelight from the performance on the ground?
In a sense, yes, but I would actually agree with what Virat said. And, there was such a hullabaloo raised about the pitch
That's
at the
true.
1K day where India lost in the last ODI. The pitch is always a factor whenever teams are playing anywhere in the world. So when teams come to India, it's turning tracks that are going to be the issue. When we go to Australia, it's hard and bouncy wickets, or if you go to England, it's grassy and seaming tracks. These are always going to be issues. And now more and more we find, and because the game has got globalized, there's so much intensive coverage of the game, that these things are talked about more. But Indians have usually and generally kind of struggled overseas because we are not used to those conditions, and teams visiting India have struggled on our slow turners or dust bowls or whatever else. This match ended in 3 days. In my opinion, the South Africans lost this match so badly because there was a lot of turn and bounce and nip and zip in the pitch, and they were not technically equipped to tackle it. But I think more than that, there was also the fear of playing on a spinning track, which kind of affected their concentration, application, whatever else.
And I think that was quite evident in Amla's interview after the match, where he said,
talked of a brain fade out.
yeah, he said that. And so obviously they were quite scared of the pitch from day one. But a pitch that started turning on day one itself, is that what we want, or is that what it should actually, for cricket as a whole?
Nikhila, we played in, I know of matches in Durban where teams have got bowled out for 45-50 on day one. And it's not Zimbabwe, it's Australia versus South Africa. Teams have got bowled out for 45, 60 for 7, 60 for 8. We don't say, should that pitch be kind of scrapped by the ICC? Why should we only be so critical about pitches in India? Teams come here prepared. Why did they play 2.5 spinners in the team? Because they knew this is going to be a turning track. In my opinion, the match should have extended onto the 4th day, had both teams. Even Indian batsmen didn't apply themselves. They also struggled against this. The part-time bowler, Elgar, got 4 or 5 wickets. So
on the first day itself.
So one is the tension of playing the number 1 ranked team in the world, which India has to kind of endure. The other is the number 1 team is worried about losing the number 1 spot, which they won't, but losing matches on turning pitches. I think that affected their batting.
Okay, so I asked, do you think the toss in a way decided the match?
Toss was very crucial, but I don't think India made so much of the toss because they made 201 runs.
But would India have been able to chase down, say, 200 on in the 4th innings if it was the other way around on the same pitch?
I would think that India would have fared better than South Africa while chasing.
Okay.
Maybe 275 would have been difficult, but 200 because the batsmen are more used to playing on such pitches.
Yeah. And also, like as you said, that neither of the batsmen applied themselves.
If you look at the Indian second innings, where we, at one stage with Pujara batting so well and Kohli, it looked like we might actually set a target of 300, 325. And then we lost 8 wickets for 38 runs. And I think at least 6 of those 8 wickets were thrown away. Bad strokes. It was not the pitch.
So obviously, players need to adapt to the kind of pitch that there is.
Yeah.
But how much of this home advantage, should actually be taken advantage of by the hosts? How far?
Completely.
How far do you think it's fair to prepare pitches to your own, liking?
One of the challenges of cricket is that every country has its own character of pitches.
Yeah.
So when you go to Pakistan or India or Sri Lanka, even there is a marginal difference, but these are subcontinent pitches. The soil varies here, the way the curators work, it varies here. There's a huge difference between New Zealand pitches and Australian pitches. We don't have standardized pitches across the world.
Yeah.
And one of the things
is that something the ICC should look forward to? Or
I
not
don't think so. I think that's one of the charms of this game, And see, cricket is played sequentially, one team bats, then the other team bats.
Yeah.
Unlike football, when both teams, or hockey, when the two teams take the field together. So there it's a level playing field. So cricket has its own character
Yeah.
or characteristics,
Yeah.
which should be retained.
And that's what makes the sport
That's
interesting.
what makes the sport so brilliant.
Yeah. So Mohali, obviously, we saw how the pitch turned out. What are you expecting from Bangalore now?
Turning tracks.
Yeah.
That will be the instruction.
Yeah.
Clear and simple. Whether the curators manage it or not is a different issue. But having said that, I would say that the Indian team needs to be a little wary of a fierce backlash. The South African team is not number one for no reason. It's for good reason.
Yeah.
Dale Steyn, if he gets a little, something from
But
the
his health
contingent,
is still a concern. Like,
health is a concern.
Yeah.
I think JP Dumini coming back
Yeah.
will add more heft to their batting, and this is going to be a competitive series.
And what about the Indian lineup, Are there questions over, Shikhar Dhawan's form?
Certainly, there are questions over Shikhar Dhawan's
Should
form.
he
He's
be
had a-
dropped? And
if you look at his test matches, this is the match he's failed in, but before that he's made 100 in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
He got injured and went out. So maybe they'll give him another opportunity. It's a right-left combination which they
Yeah.
are happy to have. But I think Shikhar's, the pressure on him is showing because he even dropped catches and slips. Because
Yeah.
your mind then starts, you get anxious.
Confidence goes for a toss,
Confidence
yeah.
goes. So
Yeah.
he needs to really buck up if he wants to keep his place in the team, because there are other guys knocking on the door.
yeah.
There's Rahul, there's Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma.
If it comes to, if it really comes to it, then you can ask Pujara to open. So the opener slot is not secure for him.
And, speaking of someone who's got back into the team, Ravindra Jadeja, career best bowling figures he had.
Yeah.
8 wickets.
In the match.
Yeah, in the overall. So he's, made a statement. He's
I-
come back
I think,
and he's
I
proven
think
it.
it was a master stroke to get him back into the test squad. He's been in rich form in domestic cricket.
Yeah.
And on pitches like the one we encountered at Mohali. So, on those kind of tracks, he can become a killer.
Yeah.
He's also been in decent batting form. So great value to the team automatically. I think that pitch compelled him to take an extra spinner. Otherwise, if we had taken two, it would have been Mishra and Ashwin. Not Jadeja.
Yeah. Okay. So smart move by the selectors.
Smart move by the selectors, and then the team management to include him.
Yeah. And I asked, as we're talking about selectors and the management, there's been quite a shuffle. The BCCI had their
Swatch BCCI. There's been a sweep of
Swatch
sweeping
BCCI
changes.
campaign that's
Sweeping
going.
changes.
So obviously the big Srinivasan being dropped as the ICC chairman.
That's the big one.
Yeah, that's the big
really
one.
big. It's a big call to take, and it shows in a sense, the gravitas with which Shashank Manohar is approaching. Because whatever may be the internal differences between Indian administrators, this also reflects a little on the country, quite a lot.
Yeah.
ICC chairman from India loses support of his own board is is real news making
Yeah.
kind of event. So yes, Roger Binney not a selector.
Yeah, not a selector.
Ravi Shastri not part of the governing council of the IPL. So the conflict of interest issue is being addressed, and I think there's a reason for that, which is that the Lodha committee is supposed to come up with a kind of an advisory on the code of ethics that
Yeah.
the BCCI should follow, maybe by the end of this month. So they want to do almost all of it, preempt the Lodha, rather than be told what to do,
Yeah.
we're doing it ourselves.
Yeah, cleaning, as you said, there's a Swatch BCCI
Swatch BCCI campaign.
But there's still a long list of people who are, still, they have that conflict of interest issue. The biggest being Saurav Ganguly. He's now, also he's also on the IPL governing team. And
No, he's now decided he will not do media,
Yeah.
assignments, so he won't be a commentator. He is an official.
yeah, he's an administrator now for
Correct.
the
For
East-
Cricket Association
yeah,
of Bengal, and he's part of the technical committee.
Yeah.
So that's fair enough.
Okay.
It doesn't conflict because
Yeah.
he's not a selector.
And other members of the IPL governing, committee who
The
still
good thing
have,
there is that we shrunk it to 5.
Yeah.
So Rajiv Shukla is still the chairman of the IPL governing council.
Yeah.
Or IPL chairman. And there's no Shastri, they've just shrunk it to 5 in number, which I think is a good number. Earlier you had 10, 12 of them and nobody knowing what the hell the other guy is doing. So this is a very good move to just shrink it down. And then the other thing which they've got, which I've been advocating for the last maybe 10 years, there's an ombudsman for the BCCI. A retired Chief Justice, I think AP Shah, has been appointed as the ombudsman for the Board of Control for Cricket in India to closely monitor any issue of conflict of interest that may arise.
Yeah, and
which I think is terrific.
much required move.
Much required.
Yeah, and As you said, you've been advocating it for years, and
Yes. In fact, I think they should have an ombudsman even for the IPL.
yeah, I think that's the next step that maybe Shashank Manohar is looking to do. So obviously, it's three good things that have come out of this, and I think to a fair extent, the AGM was a big statement that they've come out and made.
Yes.
What next that the BCCI need to, address?
So I think the issue now is that they've talked, Shashank Manohar has talked of making it completely transparent.
Yeah.
They've got a website where transactions of more than 25 lakh will be put. I think it should be lowered down to maybe even 5 lakh, because the problem is not only at the top, even at the local state association levels, where, see, the BCCI gives, say, 26 crore to state association.
Yeah.
What happens to that money? So why have below the radar, deals and stuff happening which people don't have access to?
Yeah.
So I think that is something they need to look at.
Yeah, and obviously they've given the suggestion to ICC that that Srinivasan needs to be dropped and Shashank Manohar stepping in to complete the 2016.
That's a big fallout of obviously Shashank Manohar is on an operation cleanup of not even the residual effect of Srinivasan remaining. Of course, TNCA, he's the president, so he's still there as part of the board. But this looks like a kind of finish him off situation.
Yeah, so you don't predict a return for Srinivasan in the near
I can't
future.
see how. I mean, yes, he's part of the BCCI.
There are a lot of talks about him rebuilding his image and what.
No, if that, look, in the long run, I don't know what might happen. You never know with the BCCI politics, the way it goes around. It's like a merry-go-round. Today's enemies are tomorrow's friends. So we don't know. But right now, he's on a really, kind of bold lock, stock and barrel.
That's true. And speaking of cricket making lots of headlines, there was cricket in the US, United States, the Cricket All-Stars, where you had Tendulkar versus Vaughan.
Yes.
And
I think it's a great initiative by two legends, and I think the allure of a Tendulkar and a Vaughan is so huge that these three matches will be big successes.
Packed houses,
Packed houses, and adjunct events like dinners and talks and coaching sessions and whatever else, which is great. The gospel of cricket needs to be spread to other countries, and America is actually a very fertile, latent market. There are lots of Asian origin people and Caribbeans who are there. They just need to kind of be pushed in a certain direction. So that's one part. Whether these guys are going to take it to the other parts of the world where cricket can do with a little push, who knows. What I am very keen on is for these guys, all these players, and certainly Tendulkar and Vaughan, and certainly even more so Tendulkar, because he is the biggest draw in the world, is to make a pitch for getting cricket into the Olympics. The IOC is interested. Even Tendulkar and Vaughan have said yes, they are interested. But in the past, the BCCI has been shy, and therefore the other boards also then kind of, their interest also waned. But the T20 format now allows you to get into the Olympics. You can have a 16-team format which can be run, and why not?
I also, just a broader picture. So do you think this little exhibition series that they're playing, it'll serve, in the longer run, and maybe T20 is the way to go to globalize the game?
Absolutely. There is no doubt that T20 is the way to go. ODIs amongst regular cricket playing countries is shrinking. Test matches are struggling. So T20 is the only way to go. And yes, if the sport needs to remain alive, not just dependent on one country and fans and sponsors from only India, then it needs to be globalized.
But what about the purist in you? Like, what does that say? I mean, I'm sure.
No, I've been waking up every morning to watch from 5:30. I watch Australia versus New Zealand. I've been watching that, and then after that, switching between India and Australia, because India matches start at 9:30. So I'm having my fill of test matches, but I am regretting. I mean, Mohali, we didn't see spectators at all. You're playing the top-ranked team in the world. Your team is winning, and there's no spectators. So it's a sorry state of affairs. Incidentally, there's the first ever day-night test match coming up
in Adelaide.
27th of November. I hope to be there. And maybe that's the cricket needs a pink revolution. Test cricket. They're going to play with a pink ball, and hopefully it'll just kind of give some, booster shot.
Much required booster shot.
Much needed booster shot to the 5-day format.
But I still feel that cricket lovers will always want the 5-day format, and I don't see it dying. Obviously, I think it needs some kind of revamp, as you've said.
So I'll tell you what is happening. A lot of people follow Test cricket online. monitoring the score. They may not be at the ground. Now you need to get 20-25,000 people at the ground, not 2 million.
Yeah.
So that is becoming the problem. Ultimately, any player, and you're a tennis buff, you can't have Federer and Nadal playing to empty stands.
Yeah.
It's so disheartening even for them. If you have an audience, performing artists will also do better. So you need to get crowds back to the test matches, to watch the matches. You have to come up with more creative ways of selling and marketing the sport. That's what needs to be done.
Yeah, and maybe day and night test
Day and
matches.
night. Day and night I think is really a good move.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned tennis because we did have a packed house for the final of the Paris Open.
Yes.
Yeah, Djokovic versus Murray, and Djokovic again, like he's just continuing his run. It's 22 unbeaten matches now.
Yeah.
And he's become the first player to win 6 Masters title in a year.
He's becoming a bionic player,
That's
tennis player.
so right now, I mean, the debate is that when you compare him to the greats, obviously he still has his career ahead of him. He's still 29, so he still has a few years. He's not won the French Open yet, but the form he's in, I think right now I would say he's doing way better.
Pete Sampras never won the French Open.
Exactly.
Neither did John McEnroe.
Yeah. And that's been a
So-
big debate. So where do you rank this season? Because when he did an incredible season in 2011, you thought that's the best he can do. Then he came back in 2014 and stepped up, did one better. And this year, 6 Masters titles, 3 Grand Slams.
Yeah.
He's reached the final of every Masters tournament that he entered. He didn't play one, Madrid, apart from that 8 finals, and French Open final. I don't think there's any season. I mean, when I think
I
of
don't
it,
think there's any doubt that he is the world number 1 by far.
Yeah, he's
So
clinched the ranking.
that's essentially,
He's clinched the ranking for sure.
yeah.
But the big question, do you think he is now proving to be a better player than Pete Sampras? Obviously the numbers 14, 10,
Yeah.
the Grand Slam difference is there.
I'm a little wary about comparing greats of
Greats
different
across,
eras.
yeah.
So that always becomes a bit of a problem. Is Tendulkar better than Richards? And was Richards better than Sobers, and was Sobers better than Jack Hobbs? So circumstances change, bodies evolve, as a race, sports changes,
Yeah.
the demands change.
Yeah.
What one can say is he's definitely an all-time great
Yeah.
already.
Already,
Now whether
yeah.
he'll finish
Ahead
with more trophies and medals and accolades, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And now obviously he has his eyes set on London,
Yeah.
the season clincher, and that should be interesting because Federer, it looked like he won his hometown tournament. It looked like he might at least pose some kind of challenge to Djokovic, and you thought then that okay, Murray maybe this tournament playing so well, he might be able to do something, but in the final he was nowhere close.
Yeah.
It was
No,
a straight six victory.
It begs the question. I think Djokovic just streets ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, right now he is. So the question is who can stop him? Who can
Yeah,
get a
that's
set
the
off
question
him?
now.
Yeah. And as football, we need to talk about football, a little bit of football. City and Arsenal both on top of the table, but both of them drop points. 2
Yeah.
draws for them. Obviously, Arsenal were playing their North London neighbours, Tottenham, and that's always quite a noisy affair. And for them to get a draw out of that, I think they must be very disappointed because
Yeah.
it was at Emirates. It was at their home ground. They had so many chances, and also they had the chance to go on top.
Yeah.
Because City drew with Aston Villa. They played out a goalless draw, and they could not capitalize on their opportunity to, especially there's an international break coming up. So there's no club football for 14 days, There's no club football. So to have that advantage,
Yeah.
and they missed out. And worrying signs for them because 8 players out injured.
Yeah.
They didn't buy any outfield player like we discussed over the season, over the transfer
Yeah,
window. So how do they cope up with?
That's the challenge. But I'm
Yeah.
curious, in a nutshell, come on, tell me, what's happening with those 2 coaches, Mourinho and Wenger?
Oh,
What is their status?
Mourinho, obviously, since he was serving out a 1-match ban, we didn't get to hear from him at
yeah,
all
yeah,
over
yeah.
the weekend, and Chelsea lost again. They're just 3 points above the relegation zone.
Yeah.
But the good sign was that they played as a way better match. I thought it was actually, they were very unfortunate. There were quite a few chances that they should have scored. Maybe, now that, there isn't as much spotlight on Mourinho now because he's losing and losing and losing. And I think if Wenger was in his position, the press would have been after his throat.
Yeah.
That he has to go. Because I think Mourinho still gets away with it.
No, but Wenger has a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
So
So-
more hate now than love.
Yeah.
So
So obviously for this week, Wenger coming out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mourinho nowhere to be seen. And that's how it's going to be for this coming week because there's an international break for friendlies. But hopefully once you're back, next week, Chelsea can regain some of the form that they had in the last match and push themselves a little above, pose a little bit of a challenge. And surprisingly, what the most interesting story of the Premier League so far has been Leicester City. Nobody predicted that they'd be third in November. I don't think anyone, very sure, no analyst or pundits could have picked that. And England player Jamie Vardy, he is definitely having a party. He's scored in 9 consecutive matches, which is a record, Premier League record, 12 goals, top scorer, and maybe the next big English hope. So that's good for football, I think, and that's good for English football.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ayaz, looking forward to Bangalore next.
Yes. Yeah. That's the test match
and
coming up.
What expectations do you have from South Africa? As you said, they will have a backlash.
No, I think they need to kind of put their minds to the job, and it's a 5-day match. It's not a 1-day match.
Yeah.
They had control of the match till the last innings.
Yeah.
Then they just kind of collapsed. So they need to kind of shape up. Otherwise, they don't want to. They've had a terrific record playing overseas. Everywhere they've gone, they haven't lost for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Wherever they've gone.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't want to lose to India and India.
So that's what we're looking forward to this week. The second test match between India and South Africa. Can South Africa pose a challenge again? Tune in next week to find out. Thank you.